Let's talk about the news media,
Well, I can speak from personal experience.
please.
I stopped watching the news 20 years ago.
American business icon Warren Buffett said every newspaper in America, with the exception of 3, is doomed.
The industry is in serious trouble, as we all know. It's largely because of ad revenue falling.
You have to feel a personal connection that is more than just reading stories. You have to feel involved. How do we present our journalism in a way that has powerful personal appeal as well as being excellent in what it covers?
Hello and welcome back to the Citi-Zen-Ship show. My name is Clinton. Today, we're going to be talking about print media in the digital landscape. I have with me today Gord Daniel. He is the publisher at Best Version Media with both the Neighbors of Qualicum Beach as well as the Neighbors of Nanoose Bay. Thank you so much, Gord, for joining us at Podio Studio this morning.
Thank you, Clinton. I'm excited to do this.
This is going to be very cool. You know, we're going to be talking about your publication, the local magazine, but also kind of how this plays into the digital space. So before we jump right into our topic, can you tell the people a little bit of an introduction? Because you got quite the story. You know, I think that's part of the reason why you wanted to come and just kind of talk about a little bit of your life as well. So why don't we just kick things off there? Can you introduce yourself to the people?
Sure. So I'm originally from the Okanagan Valley in British Columbia, and I grew up on an apple orchard. Beautiful place to live, four-season playground. I did very well in school, in high school, and ended up going to Edmonton and going to the University of Alberta for engineering. Had no idea what I was getting into as far as the weather, moving from the Okanagan Valley to Edmonton, but really enjoyed my time as a student. I enjoyed the lifestyle of a student, clearly. But I knew pretty early on getting out of university that I didn't particularly enjoy the work that I was doing. And what I found is that I didn't really enjoy being an employee, and I didn't really enjoy being in front of a computer. I enjoyed when I was out in the field. I got to work in some really cool remote areas, doing some really neat stuff. And it's a fascinating industry and it's a great career. It just wasn't really a good fit for me. I met my wife in engineering also in Edmonton. She's from the West Coast though. She's from Powell River. And long story short, we blink and 15 years goes by and we're still in Alberta. And we're working. I'm just outside of Calgary, commuting into an office in a small cubicle in a big tower. And we have 3 kids. And our plan was always to go back to BC and live a lifestyle that is just more wholesome, looking to raise a family, enjoy our life, do all the cool outdoor recreation things that we like to do. But yeah, you blink and 15 years goes by. And so one day we just decided, that's it, we're going to move. And I quit my job and we moved. And so that was 6 years ago. And so here we are on Vancouver Island. I had no idea what I was going to do when I got here. I just knew what I wasn't going to do. And I think in life, that's just as important.
100%.
To know
100%.
what you don't want to do. And so I really took my time to decompress. We were running a couple of businesses on the side, investing in real estate, as well as working full time and having 3 young kids. So it was very busy, very full. And I was looking for something to do here that would get me involved in the community, doing something positive, and get me out talking to people. I didn't want to be stuck behind a desk. I didn't want to be, stuck behind a screen.
Tell me a little bit about the mindset and kind of those early conversations you're having with your partner and kind of what helped encourage you to take that leap to move out west. Because a lot of people, I found that there was a huge migration of people out to the island and more of just, not only is it the geographics of kind of moving to a different area, but starting a whole different lifestyle and leaving kind of that corporate office world. Can you kind of go into a little bit more detail on that? Because it's a really fascinating moment in time.
Sure. I think getting really clear on what we wanted in life.
Right.
Crystal clear on what we wanted to look like. Moving and having a blank slate was scary, but also like an adventure. And so having a brand new connection in the community, brand new group of friends, new schools for the kids. They were young enough that it wasn't too much of a disruption for them. We've never looked back. There's no regrets. It's so happy to be here.
That's awesome. Yeah. And, I hear this. I'm a big hockey fan. I don't know if you follow sports too much, but they say that whether you're an athlete or an Olympian, you can either be nervous or you can be excited. And it's kind of a very similar emotion, right?
Similar energy.
Mm-hmm.
It takes a lot of courage to make change happen.
Yes.
I think that the pain to stay the same has to be greater than the pain to change.
Amen. Yes.
And then you make a move.
Perfect. All right. Well, let's get into this world of kind of print media here. What was your Did you kind of read any magazines growing up before you entered the industry? What was your impression of print media?
I read magazines as a kid. I mean, I grew up in the 80s and 90s, pre-internet. I was an avid skier, and so I read skiing magazines, freestyle skiing, people jumping off cliffs and doing descents down slopes in Alaska, crazy stuff. And I love these stories. I love the interviews with these athletes and the full color, glossy print pictures, right? And I'd take them out and I'd put them on my wall, and that was what I was into as a kid, in high school especially. And then as I got older, I would read magazines and newspapers in an effort to be up to date on things, current events, see what's going on in the world, and feeling like I kind of had a good perspective and, broadened my knowledge and my experience, I guess. But two things happened. For one, we had a family, and
Yes.
then time gets really precious and life gets full. I found that I had less and less time to try to make sense of the world through our traditional print media. Not that the digital options were much better. They were just ubiquitous. They were everywhere. It was in your face. And then the other thing that happened is I came to realize that I didn't always trust what I was reading. And I didn't really have any way of knowing whose perspective this was and why this perspective was being shown to me. And maybe there was even some influence that was happening behind the scenes. And so I stopped going out looking for media the same way that I used to. And again, having a family, being very full, I figured if something was going to happen in the world, I would hear about it. And that's an interesting perspective to have. I've kind of come full circle now, and I continue to go out and I look for what's happening in the world, but I'm very selective about the media that I consume. But I really got away from print. So now I find like I've gotten back into print because of what I do.
For sure. So let's talk about that, because Best Version Media, very cool company. I think the thing that really kind of grabbed me when we had coffee earlier last month was this fact that you were saying that we're actually outperforming the Post. And in an era where print media is apparently dead, you are actually building a thriving company, at least here on the island. So if you could, why don't you walk me through a little bit of the founder's story and kind of how the company came to be? Are you comfortable talking about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So Best Version Media started in 2007, and it started with 6 magazines in the Milwaukee, Wisconsin area. And it sort of incubated for 4 or 5 years there. And then in 2012, they started to expand into other areas in the United States. And in 2013, moved into Canada as well. And this is during a time where Facebook is starting to really ramp up, and the digital age is here.
Mm-hmm.
And, in the 2007-8 timeframe when they're getting started, there's a financial mess in the world. And people are telling the founders, you guys are crazy starting up a print company. However, the way that we do it is a little differently, and I can talk about that. But we've now expanded, and we have over 1,300 of these magazines across North America, about 150 of them in Canada, 7 or 8 here on the island. And we'll mail out more than around 50 million copies this year, which is mind-boggling.
It is.
It's one of the fastest growing media companies on the continent. There's only 2 other publications that have larger distributions, and that is the Wall Street Journal and USA Today. So it's quite a story to have a print company start from that and really ramp up. And it's because we micro-target little nice affluent communities. And so even though we'll mail out 50 million copies, each magazine is only servicing a little area of about 3,000 homes. And so that has scaled up tremendously.
So highly targeted, multiple highly targeted publications as opposed to one national paper that's trying to, address a lot of readers.
And I think that's really the secret to the success, is that each distribution area is micro-targeted to an area, and the content is relevant and local to those people that live there. It is free for them. It just shows up in their mailbox every single month. And it is all driven through the revenue that's generated through ads and sponsorship, and which is most of what I do, is working with businesses in the local area on branding their businesses through the magazine. And we do digital advertising as well now.
Perfect. So you mentioned it. We'll just kind of pull back. How long have you been with the company, and what's kind of attracted you? What's kind of kept you with this company?
Sure. So I've been with the company almost 5 years now. And as I mentioned, I was looking for something that would provide me with the lifestyle that I was looking for. You only get one chance to be a really great parent because then they grow up and they leave and that chance is gone. So it's really important for me to do something where I can be home in the morning and make them breakfast and lunch and get them off to the bus. And then I'm home in the afternoon when they get off the bus. And I can set my time and my schedule around my family and what's important to us. So that was really attractive, is the lifestyle that this affords me. And the other thing is that it is doing something really positive in the community. The content in these publications is very positive. It's family friendly. It's not national or generic. And so that has been a really rewarding part of it as well.
And they're very good human interest stories. You know, it's not like what Trudeau's doing and Poilievre's doing. It's very kind of connected to the local community. Very awesome. Print media in the digital world. How do you view print being successful? How can print media be successful in this digital landscape?
I think the key is to make it really relevant to the readers. And maybe that's harder when you're trying to service a very large distribution, being able to micro-target this into affluent communities and making that content revolve around them. Having a resident on the front of each magazine, a family on the front of each magazine that lives in that community. When a reader gets this in the mailbox, they say, oh, you know, it's Susan. I know them, or I know of them because our kids go to the same school, or I want to know them because they walk their dog in front of my house, or we buy groceries at the same place. And so there's wanting to know who's in your local community, that desire. I think that people are naturally somewhat nosy, and I don't mean that in a bad way. But
curious.
They're
Yeah.
curious. They're
Yeah.
compelled. They want to know, who is this person that I see on this cover that lives in my community? And I know when I open this up, I'm going to find out about them. I'm going to read their story. And the people that are on our cover, that's not for everybody. But for those that do, they have a ton of fun. It's free. They get a very professional photo shoot with our photographer, and they get to share their story.
Let's get into, I want to talk to you about screen time. And you mentioned that you're a father. So both with yourself and then I guess with your kids, what's the different rules you have around regulating screen time?
For me, I really became aware of how screen time and social media in particular was affecting me in 2020. Things got really weird in 2020, if you'll remember that.
You don't say.
And I found that on Facebook in particular, I was just witnessing really toxic interactions with people. And I decided to take a break on my birthday for a week and see how it went. And that was 4 years ago. So I've never been back. And it has given me a really much more healthy relationship with technology. I find there's less noise and distractions going on in my own head. I don't sit there and just, roll through and scroll just mind-numbing stuff because it's habit and because it's a really addictive thing to do.
It is an addiction to a large degree for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. And learning more about dopamine and how that's triggered in our bodies doing all kinds of things, social media and technology being one of them. And so trying to distance myself from that, it's still a challenge, of course. Not with social media, but even just with screens in general. We do so much with technology. I believe that that distancing myself from social media has helped me to develop more patience and being more present with people when I am with them, in particular with my family, with my kids and my wife. And so hopefully that makes me a better parent and a better father, better person. And if nothing else, I try to be a better role model for my kids.
That is great. And I definitely relate with that. I think the big thing I want the listeners to absorb, and I think this is a popular opinion, but I think it just needs to be preached again and again, is that, you are what you eat. If you eat a bunch of McDonald's, you're going to get slow. And if you consume a bunch of reels, you're going to kind of get that brain fog. I think it's important to be very conscious about what you're consuming online. And being a digital creator, I probably spend too much time at the Mac myself, but it's about creating that distance, coming outside. And then this is also what I like about the whole podcasting format is you get to connect with people. Yes, we're in a digital space right now, but we're also in a physical space and we're connecting, right? So I appreciate that. I appreciate you coming in today. How does your current role as a publisher? Now, you've mentioned that you get to go outside, you get to meet the community. Talk to us a little bit more about the community involvement piece, how that kind of helps not only mental health, but also just your role in the community and how you think that kind of creates that nice positive feedback loop of people helping people.
Right. Bringing people together is actually our mission statement with Best Version Media. And I get to do that every day, whether that's interacting with the people that are part of the content in here. I've met so many amazing people. We just had our 50th edition in Qualicum Beach of the magazine. That's 50 families, 50 couples or individuals that we've put on the front cover and sharing their stories. Many of them have become acquaintances and very good friends. I've also got to meet several hundred different business owners in the community. Meeting these business owners has been a lot of fun because I get to know them. I get a little bit of an insight into their industry and what's happening in the local economy and their experience of it. And a lot of those have become really good friends as well.
For sure. Another thing I just got to give you props on is you're quite active in both our local Chamber of Commerce here in the area. What would you say to kind of introverted people who are a little bit shy to encourage them to kind of come out to some of these events and meet community?
You might not know it, but I'm an introvert for sure. You know,
Oh, yeah.
This was the kid who was good at math and science and went into engineering, right? And so for me to get out, that's been a big personal development piece for me to get
Had to
out.
learn to flex that muscle.
Absolutely. And I've come to really love it. I love getting out and meeting people. Not that I'm comfortable even maybe speaking in this platform or in front of a bunch of people. It's not really my forte, but and I love this, being able to do this. And so thank you, Clinton. But for those that are maybe nervous or unsure about putting themselves out there, it's the Chamber of Commerce, you know, in both areas here is fantastic. It's such a small investment to be able to have access to an amazing group of people. And at the very least, you're going to probably make some friends.
Awesome. Well, I hope do give this video a like and subscribe, do all that digital media stuff. And then I hope this has given you some confidence to maybe turn off the screen and walk outside into the sunshine and talk to some people.
Look at this, physical media.
We really appreciate you coming. We thank Podio Studio for having us here today. All the best, Gordon.
Thanks, Clinton.
Cheers. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Citi-Zen-Ship Show. My name is Clinton. I really do want to create some more episodes around media and media consumption. Do leave it down in the comments of any future topics that you guys want to hear, and come back every week because we have new episodes releasing every Monday. Cheers. Do you think we're still going to have newspapers in the next 50 years? What's kind of the landscape for print media moving forward?
The companies that thrive and the publications that thrive will be the ones that are relevant to their readers and that engagement with people. So that there's real connections. So we're not just talking from behind a keyboard or behind a screen, making real local connections in our community.